All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to jump back in time to Boston, 1849, and piece together a really strange medical mystery, document by document. This is a story about a plague, a cure that shouldn't have worked, and a vision that, well, it really messes with your idea of what's real and what's not.
So let's get right into it with our first piece of evidence. This is an official public order from the city's health commission. And I mean, just read that line. All citizens are advised to settle their affairs. Can you even imagine seeing that posted in your town? This one sentence tells you everything you need to know. The story we're about to uncover begins in a city gripped by absolute terror.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to walk through this case file step by step, looking at 5 key documents. We'll start with the city's official state of emergency, then peek into a doctor's private log, hear the patient's own incredible testimony, look at a clinical analysis that tries to explain it all, and wrap up with a final chilling letter.
Okay, Section 1, a city of desperation. Our first document is that public health notice, setting the scene in Boston during a pretty horrific cholera epidemic in the summer of 1849.
You know, this slide really paints a picture of a city just completely collapsing, banning public gatherings, hospitals overflowing. But that fourth point, that's the one that really matters for our story. The city gave doctors official permission to use powerful narcotics like opium, not to try and cure people, but, and I'm quoting here, to deaden agonies they cannot cure. The goal wasn't to save lives anymore, it was just to manage death. And that desperation is the key to everything that happens next.
So let's see how that official policy actually played out on the ground. We're moving to our second document now. This is a page from the private ledger of a doctor who was right in the thick of it, a guy named Dr. Miles P. Aldridge. And this is where we meet the man at the very heart of this mystery. This timeline is it's wild. You've got a patient, identified only as RD, who is absolutely on death's door. Dr. Aldridge gives him a massive dose of opium, basically to help him die peacefully. Then he immediately panics, thinking he's given him a fatal overdose. But when he comes back the next morning, the guy's not only alive, his fever's broken, he's on the road to recovery. It's a miracle. But look at that last note, quiet and haunted. He survived, but whatever he went through, it changed him.
So what on earth happened to RD during those hours when he should have been dead? Well, he actually asked to give a formal statement about what he saw, and our third document is that very testimony, a transcription of a vision that is nothing short of, well, annihilation.
It all starts with the physical pain. He talks about this awful pounding in his head from the cholera. But under the influence of the opium, that internal feeling, it becomes external. It transforms into this sound, the sound of a monstrous ocean, with huge, sinister waves crashing down on some lonely coast. He then finds himself actually there, on this desolate shore, watching these waves. And they're not just random waves. He says they seem to have a purpose, a noxious marine mind, and that they're waging a war of extermination upon all solid ground. It's like the land itself is being eaten alive. And then, out of nowhere, the whole vibe just shifts. A beautiful child appears and says this really cryptic thing about them coming down from the stars. Then a god and goddess show up. They tell him the world is ending, and they invite him to come with them to a paradise called Tolo, this place beyond the Milky Way where it's all just beauty and pleasure, forever. He says yes, of course, and they all start rising up into the stars, and it's peaceful, it's beautiful. But then he hears it again, from way down below, the damnable, the detestable pounding of the waves. And in that moment, he forgets all about paradise, and he does the one thing you're never supposed to do. He looks back. And what he sees is just mind-breaking. The Earth's oceans are draining away into this giant smoking pit, and as the water disappears, it's revealing what was underneath all along. Not just sunken cities we know about, but these terrible spires and monoliths, structures from a time before humans, from lands we never even knew were there. The whole vision climaxes in this final, deafening blast of fire and thunder that literally dissolves the moon. And when it's all over, he's just floating in space, looking at our solar system. But it's wrong. The Earth is just gone, wiped out completely, leaving the other planets to just search for their lost sister. So, wow, what in the world do you do with a story like that? Well, about a year later, the New England Journal of Medicine took a crack at it. They published a clinical analysis of the case, trying to come up with a rational scientific explanation for this insane experience. The author, a Dr. Ephraim Vollmer, argues that this wasn't just some random chaotic dream. He actually breaks the whole vision down into 4 clear psychological stages. He says it's a highly structured psychosis, basically a story the man's mind told itself as it was shutting down.
Now, at the core of Vollmer's whole theory is this idea he calls cosmic nihilism. He makes a really important point. This vision isn't like a religious apocalypse. There's no judgment, no God, no heaven or hell. The earth is just consumed, erased. It's a purely physical event. Vollmer thinks the patient's dying brain created this whole terrifying philosophy just to process the simple, physical fact of its own extinction.
But just when you think we've got a neat, tidy explanation, that's not the end of the story. Our 5th and final document is a private letter written by the first doctor, Dr. Aldridge, to a friend of his, and his take on all of this is much, much darker.
So Dr. Aldridge read Vollmer's analysis in the medical journal, and he completely rejects it. As you can see here, where Vollmer sees a textbook psychosis, Aldridge sees a genuine testimony. Where Vollmer sees a madman, Aldridge, who actually knew the patient, sees a man who has been hollowed out by what he saw. To Dr. Aldridge, this wasn't some dream about extinction. It was a memory of reality.
And here it is, the final, devastating twist. Dr. Aldridge reveals what the patient himself came to believe. Aldridge asked him, which part was the dream? Was the beautiful paradise of Tullow the illusion, or was it the world-ending horror of the ocean? The patient was clear. He insisted that the blissful, heavenly paradise, that was the dream, and the all-consuming, destructive horror, that was real.
And that brings us to the one piece of advice the patient left behind, passed from him to his doctor and now to us. A final, terrifying warning that just leaves you wondering, what exactly is waiting for us?